Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today we're going to talk about Dungeons and Dragons. We're going to talk about Dragonlance Shadow of the Dragon Queen, and we're going to talk about Chapter 7, Siege of Calamon, the last chapter in Dragonlance Shadow of the Dragon Queen. And you guys are being very patient. I thought I was getting close to the end of this book, and I am actually close to the end of this book. But as I like kind of finish it out, and I'm finishing the second reread. A lot of things are hitting me, right? Like, and I have a considerable amount more thoughts. So, one, thank you for your patience. I really appreciate this kind of slow burn exploration of this incredible D&D canon hardback. And I really think in a lot of ways this book is a template. It really is a template for how previous Dungeons and Dragons settings are going to be reintroduced. Allow me to reintroduce myself. Right, really, really incredible book. Today, I want to talk about Kansaldi FireEyes. All right, so at this point, the player characters have dropped the flying citadel. The flying citadel has dropped to the ground, and it has crashed, and they have escaped. And there's discussion of one thing that's really, really incredible about these Dungeons and Dragons D&D canon hardbacks is there's just a lot of time and attention and thought that goes into them. And one of the reasons why is this is on rails, right? Like, they're dropping 3 to 5 of these books a year now, and they've done literally close to 40 of these. I think we are approaching 40 D&D canon hardbacks for 5e alone, right? And these are really on rails. And I also want to just remind you, like, the D&D canon hardback is kind of a big deal now because it replaced those. There's no more soft covers. There's no more 60-page modules. D&D canon hardback is the platform, right? And there's a quality standard that comes with them, right? Like, which is full color art, amazing writing, amazing layout. Sometimes that gets broken. There's some major writing problems on Radiant Citadel last year, but generally D&D canon hardbacks are pretty incredible. All right, and even when they're written poorly, or they have bad art, or they have bad layout, if any of those three things happen, and I think the only one that really happened with Radiant Citadel was bad writing. There was some. Actually, I think the art quality was good, but it was such a kumbaya peace fest. You could say even the art was bad in Radiant Citadel, I think. The layout was good. So you arrive at this point where, so this is really kind of a, these are, the D&D canon hardback has become a very distinct thing, right? So basically the player characters have dropped the flying citadel. And at this point, they're on the ground. They're a quarter mile outside the gates of Calamon, and they can. But the chaos from the flying citadel. I forgot to talk about how they get off the flying citadel. There's nary crashes. There's spells, featherfall. There's enemy dragonels. There's actually dragonels that are trapped in some stables that they can get down on. Kleistron can bring his group of dragonels, and the player characters can ride down on those dragonels. So there's lots of ways to get off of, and this is the second time the characters have been on this major, weapons platform that drops out of the sky and crashes and kills a bunch of people, right? So this should be becoming old hat, for them. But it was kind of interesting just to see, and that's my point is there's this very careful discussion of, okay, the player characters have destroyed this thing. It's going to drop out of the sky. How do they not die? Because if they don't have a way to, and the drop is 300 feet, right, for the flying citadel. So it talks about all these different ways that they're gonna manage this, and all of this is being done because this has to be fitted to literally 100,000, even 1 million DM dungeon masters could be running this, and it has to fit across all those groups, right? And so it's kind of important there. So Kansaldi FireEyes finally comes out, and it's really kind of fascinating. So you get Kansaldi FireEyes, and first of all, who and what is she? She's a female, and I believe she's human. She has replaced one of her eyes with a fire gem, right? And the fire gem actually allows Takesis to like speak directly to her and bless her directly. So she has a link to Tiamat, right? So one of the things you're seeing a person here, and since this is Tiamat and not, this is a realm spanning, world spanning dragon who's talking directly to Kansaldi FireEyes, who is the dragon Highmaster of the Red Dragon army. And so she's come down and she's on this red dragon, a named red dragon called Ignia, right? So she drops down and basically she's there to inform the player characters that their victory in saving Kalamon is only temporary, and that the Red Dragon army and that half of Ansalon has bowed the knee to Tiamat already, right? And so, and one thing that's really interesting is I'm an evangelical Christian. We talk a lot about righteous anger. So like people like to get angry, right? But you really aren't. But Christians aren't allowed to get angry. The only anger that's allowed is righteous anger, right? And so Kansaldi FireEyes has righteous anger that her boss Tiamat's forces have been overthrown. She is upset, right? She is very, very like not happy, right? And excuse me. So we see this very interesting like fury from Kansaldi FireEyes that her boss's plan has been overthrown, and she's like, this is not acceptable. So one, she uses Ignia, this ancient red dragon, to really lay down a lot of destruction against the player characters. And so the player characters are in this position where they're being attacked, they're being forced to deal with this very aggressive red dragon, and with a very powerful actually distinctly blessed Red Dragon Army heavy hitter. And this is after they just got done dealing with Western Kern, and there's not been a lot of time, right? They might have been, there really was no time for a short rest, because I don't think you can short rest on these Dragonelles, right? And because if you get too much rest, you're gonna fall off, right? So basically, Kansaldi FireEyes comes and she lays out she's like, hey, you really have only defeated one portion of the Red Dragon army. Plus, this is the Red Dragon army. You ain't seen the Blue Dragon army, right? And I'm really surprised how thick F. Wesley Snyder lays it on that there's still major problems in Solamnia, right? And also really takes a downbeat. Like there's not even a moment of rejoicing for the player characters, which is, according to Kansaldi FireEyes, and she's still in their face and still quite deadly, right? And so there's this question. So first of all, one of the things that you could see with Dragonlance Shadow of the Dragon Queen is this is built very modularly, right? So you could snap this off. If you want to have more of a Return of the Jedi, the Empire is Dead, ending, a dungeon master can easily do that. But if you want to be like, hey, you guys are 12th level now, but there's 8 more levels and we're going to take these characters to 20th level. And I think that's one of the reasons why Kansaldi FireEyes is here, is what if you want to go to 20th level, right? And I also think I would like to talk about that. That's still a big deal. So last year, using Strixhaven, I took using Strixhaven as the first 10 levels, I took a group of 5 players all the way up to 20th level, which was really exciting. And that's still a major accomplishment within Dungeons & Dragons, within the Dungeons & Dragons sphere. 20th level play is still a major accomplishment. And honestly, it's kind of one of those milestones you check off as a dungeon master. That's not the first time I've taken players up to 20th level. It was probably 4th or 5th. Right, but I've been playing close to 40 years. So actually, I've been playing I've been playing 41 years, right? So that, and I think, and that's the point. Is it's Kansaldi is there as hey, do you want to keep this going, right? What's also interesting is how vicious Kansaldi is. One of the options that Kansaldi, and actually this is really well done. And actually, I will say some of the OSRs are doing this too, where they present. They present story options in a random table, right? Which is nice because you can roll on it, or you can just pick, right? You know, and a lot of games, including Dungeons and Dragons, do that now. And one of her options is she's like, hey, I'm furious. You guys have have had this victory, but I have this righteous anger, and I also have I'm powerful, and this red dragon is powerful. And listen, I'm going to kill all of you. But if one of you bends the knee and submits to me, you can come forward, and I will take that one player character, and then I will leave all the rest of these player characters, and you don't all have to die. Because at this point, they've just fought they've just tricked Lord Soth, they fought Wister and Kern, they fought other things up on the Flying Citadel, and they could be really hurt bad, right? So the idea that they could die even after they have brought the Flying Citadel down is quite real. And that's one of the things about Dragonlance Shadow of the Dragon Queen, is there are dragons left and right. Like, this is a serious, like, you and some of your player characters are going to die, maybe all of your player characters are going to die. It's very real, and saying, hey, Dungeons and Dragons has an edge to it, right? And we're going to explore death. It's really fascinating, right? So Kansaldi FireEyes is here, and she says, hey, if one of you submit, that one player character will come out here, submit. You will kneel before me and Ignia is going to burn you to death. So one of you is going to die and sacrifice your life right here, right? And then the rest of you will be able to live, right? And at this point, I'm absolutely shocked that F. Wesley Snyder put this in here, because at this point, the player characters might actually do that calculus, do that math. And there's probably 1 to 20 groups who are like, remember when Sarah said that her player character would go before Kansaldi FireEyes, kneel down, and her character was burnt as the ancient red dragon, burned all the flesh off of its skeleton, and then we all got to live because that one player character gave their life for us? And it's so dark and so heavy, right? Like, F. Wesley Snyder, this dude don't play, man. He is like, hey, if you ain't paying attention, Dungeons & Dragons got an edge to it. You're going to tell some unusual stories with this thing, right? And we are going to explore death, right? It is really powerful. Kansaldi FireEyes, an amazing option, with an amazing, like, it's the topper on the wedding cake. It is really quite interesting. Why do you think F. Wesley Snyder put that bit in that one player character could sacrifice their life for the rest of the player characters? That's heavy, right? Like, that almost has like biblical ramifications to it. And which explores this other idea that we've been talking about. Last year, Professor Dungeon Master said that he believed that there was a communion between players and dungeon masters that happens, and that Dungeons and Dragons can be a spiritual experience, right? That's a huge statement. When you see, right, allegory material in Dragonlance Shadow of the Queens that looks exactly like Jesus Christ's sacrifice, that's pretty heavy, right? Like, I am absolutely flabbergasted at the amazing things that are being found within Dragonlance Shadow of the Dragon Queen. Why do you think this, one player character can sacrifice their lives to save the other player characters who's in there? What do you think F. Wesley Snyder meant by that? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Please consider liking and subscribing, and have a wonderful millennium.